Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. I just looked at the clock. It was 4:46, and then it was like, and I looked at the clock, and it's time. It's overtime. Sorry about that. It is cold right now. What is going on, Linda Ann? It's like 80 something degrees in Canada, and it is really cold here in Connecticut. I'm gonna bundle up a minute here because I'm getting like the icy nose. Didn't think this was gonna happen again this year. Holy mackerel. All right. Well, welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. It is great to see you. I was live for what, 4 hours last night? It was fun. It was a lot. Um, Thank you to everybody who logged on and spent some time with me. We did the Willow Wheat for Me design. I left it out there for some reason, not thinking. But I was literally, what was occupying my mind just now when I should have been logging on was working on the next hook-in design. I want to get that out immediately because I'm just putting it out there. I am going to have sort of an interruption to service for our summer vacation, which we always take early. And although I think I'm going to come on live here and there, I know there's always the possibility of a internet problem, but I know I will have opportunities to come live. So make sure you're subscribed because I might hit a few of the big antique stores and see if I can go live there and look at some of the stuff they've got down on the floor and up on the walls that relates to us and rugging and related textiles. So that's coming up the last days of May through the first 2 weeks of June. So we will figure that out. The only reason I mention it is because I'm trying to work forward. Yeah, which is hard because I'm usually treading water. So I was working on the next design for the hook in, and I will put this out later today. I think we're going to go with him. Can you see him okay? It's like a reverse baba, and at the bottom it says black sheep because I was thinking about the other day, who said that thing about I feel like a tomato. That must have been on gallery night, and I was thinking about making a design with tomatoes, which maybe I'll do next time. But I thought same kind of idea, the black sheep, and I really like him, kind of a stylized. I might work him one more time. I've traced him on tracing paper about 15 times in the last half hour, trying to refine him. But my idea is we're gonna hook him, and Kirsten agreed, with with black wool, like really high loops. I might punch him really high with really high loops, no washers, no fender rings on, right? Ryan taught us that word last night, fender rings? It was fender ring, right? And we'll see about the color planning. I'll work on that later today. So I have a huge shipment of yarn, 2 and 3 ply coming from Maritime Family, maybe today. So that is coming up. I put the elephant up too. There's a bunch of stuff happening. Happy Monday, everybody. And if you are in our Facebook group, it's the day of the week. It's Madcap Monday when everybody's allowed to sell. All of the brands are there selling. And I'm always happy to maintain that Madcap Monday event every week so that everybody can log on and use our platform, which is enormous on Facebook. Use this platform, Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club, to look at other people's designs and patterns and all the great work that is out there. Carol, great to see you. Oh, the images you sent me, amazing. Carol just finished two different projects for 2 different chapters of the Design Like book, and they are crazy good. Crazy good. I think I'm safe in saying that one of them is a Maud Lewis. And, well, we've done both of these. So I'm going to say one is a Celtic design from Design Like Celtic. What did we do? The Book of Kells. I think that was maybe 4 months ago, and Maud Lewis. Those are both ones that you would expect to find because I've covered both of those in Design Like. By the way, I'm working on Paul Klee today, and I was working on him over the weekend. So make sure that you are signed up for the Design Like Paul Klee class. You're going to come up with some crazy designs from that class. It's going to be formatted yet again differently, right? Every class I try to do very differently. And this one is going to be very different indeed. Country Gal, you're back. I'm so happy to see you. Oh my gosh, you're also in Wisconsin. That makes 4 buddies in Wisconsin. Did you also go to the rug show? I know Carol's going to catch you. And Robin's on too. And probably Kaz is at work because she's a school teacher. Oh, fun. More reasons to go to Wisconsin, right? And Candace, great to see you. Good morning, 68 and sunny in North Texas. That sounds perfect. That sounds comfortable. Linda H., great to see you in sunny Massachusetts. April, hello in Illinois, a beautiful day. Windy, it's windy here too. It's crazy windy. I couldn't put my I dyed some wool this morning right after I dropped the kids off for school, and I couldn't put it outside even with like clothespins because it's crazy windy. It's like Wizard of Oz type windy. Robin, good morning. Good to see you. And Sharon, good to see you. Linda Ann, good morning. And Kirsten, good to see you. Juju, good to see you. Semi-sunny Pennsylvania. Good enough. Semi-good. Semi-cheerful. Karen, great to see you in Black Forest, Colorado. I was working on a quilt. Now it's time to switch gears. Hey, 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 right? You can do either one. I mean, the thing with quilting, right? Are you sometimes at your sewing machine or you do hand quilting on your lap? I've been doing some stuff with some quilt fabric too. So I'm going to be showing some new projects, new techniques coming up soon. That's one of the things that's immediately in the pipeline too. Melissa, great to see you. Happy Monday. Cozy attic day. That sounds so good. You must have a spot up in the attic that's nice and cozy and probably warm. Oh, the chill is terrible. Dawn, good to see you. Good morning. Made it home just in time. Crystal, good morning. Thunder's rumbling here. Oh, poor pup. Poor pup. It's so stressy. It was like a monsoon when I left yesterday. It was crazy torrential rain. Like really like stop the car and pull over for a minute rain. It was like thundering, hammering, super, super loud rain coming down when I left here from running the hook along. I think I left at about 10:30. It really was a late night, wasn't it? Um, yeah, we'll see. If you were logged on last night, I have to be a jerk and say it always worries me when people log on that I don't know who are like angling for admin stuff and rights to the stream. That always makes me very, very nervous. I was very preoccupied with that and I snapped a little bit. And you know I don't normally snap. Usually I'm quite good and I'm very good at sharing um, you know, um, sharing the platform and sharing with other people Madcap Monday, right? But that stressed me out a bit. So I don't ever worry that you're going to make a comment and I'm going to snap at you. It was a lot. And if you were on, I'm sure you were feeling the tension because I was getting very tense and a little bit triggered, but mostly worried because the internet is like a big black hole mystery for me. And I don't really know how much people can disrupt what we're doing if they don't have good intentions. So that always worries me. That's always the thing on my mind. I like the sheep too. Thank you. Love that new hook and design. Me too, Linda B. Me too. I really like it. I'm thinking about colors and stuff now, because I want it to be something different. And I don't want it to be something Halloweeny, but I can't help but think it'd be really good to have like a natural color to him. Um, you know, I was we were just talking the other day. We must have been talking. Maybe I was talking to somebody in person about how when sheep were brought by the Spanish to North America, right, for the first time, and it was the Pueblo who started to use the sheep for wool to make textiles, and when that happened, they were like, whoa. Exciting, right? Like white color, brown color, gray color, black color, but it was quite limited, right? From what we're used to now, it was quite limited, and it was the Navajo, so it was the Pueblo who started using the sheep and using that very natural color baseline, and then it was the Navajo who went and looked and said, okay, but I think we can do more with this. I think we can go further with these plants that we have, and it's just such a cool conversation, that transition, right? Because it's just another great example of evolution, right? The evolution of color and the evolution of, in this case, weaving, right, on like upright looms, not like table looms, propped right up against a tree. But I was thinking, as much as I love crazy colors, I also love the flatness of those original colors too. And like I do love that dark brown, like the natural wool color. And I thought it would be really cool just thinking about doing like that brown, that natural sheep brown. And then maybe in the background with this kind of sunshade, like sort of Benjamin Franklin sunburst back here, maybe like a multi, but mostly peachy, salmon, orange, very subtle sunset colors, right? And then maybe out here on the other side, it's more yellow to black. Oh, that would be very graphic, wouldn't it? Oh, I like that. All right. If you have another idea, let me know. I haven't even started the color planning. I literally was sitting in that seat drawing it, and then I came and stood over here. So I'm open to suggestions. How about that witch on the mantle? I'll show you her. She is so great. Happy, oh my gosh, is it May Day? It's May 1st. Oh my gosh, it is, isn't it? Yep, it's May. Happy May, everybody. Oh, exciting. We are definitely on the upswing, aren't we? I am excited. Cat's Gallery, good morning. Suze, good morning. Thank you. I'm going to show you the mantle. I think I've only used it once so far, and it's moved across the room, so I've got some different lighting and stuff, different stuff going on. I'll show you my room actually I won't. I'll never get the thing back in the same place. I'll take some pictures. Love that new hook design. Love the sheep. Dave, good morning. My cat hated thunderstorms. She was inconsolable. The animals are so confused, aren't they? So confused. It's so funny the way that animals are in some ways so instinctive and smart, and I relate it to my little Yorkie, Buttons, who's not smart, but it's amazing for such a tiny dog how his little body clock knows absolutely the comings and the goings of the house. And he knows, you could set your watch by him. He knows when to go to the window, the little side window on the stairs, to look out for the bus to drop my son Teddy off. He knows. And he gets so upset in the morning. And he's not smart enough to know when it's a Saturday or a Sunday or summertime, because he will try to wake everybody up because he thinks it's time to get up and get going for school. And he just races between the bedrooms of the kids, and it gets super agitated. And I think for such a little ding dong, right, because he'll also eat like poops in the backyard, so he does stuff that's like really stupid, but then he does other stuff that's like, whoa. And that always amazes me. But the other day I watched through that Madame Blanc series, which was fantastic. Thank you, Melissa. And I wanted to watch Sister Boniface, but I could not get that platform going on my TV, not even as a trial. So instead I started watching, have you seen, maybe it's a BritBox, but it's definitely a British show, something like The Queens of Mystery, about this one girl who's an orphan. I forget her name. I watched the entire series and I forgot the main character's name. And the three aunts who are all different kinds of writers. One is like a graphic novelist and an ex-rock star. Another one is more like a research nonfiction. Oh, no, she's a fantasy writer, but she's very uptight, the librarian. And the third one is like a best-selling novelist, like mainstream. Super, super good show. But as I think it has to do with the lost mother and the being orphaned, they keep using some kind of a crow or a blackbird that does caw, caw at crucial parts in the storytelling, like when someone's dead or someone's about to turn up dead, because it's a mystery. It's a great series. But when that bird does the caw, caw, no matter where Buttons is in the house, he gets so upset. And again, I'm thinking, how stupid are you? Have you not figured out that this is not real? Because it's happened like 20 times in the last 3 episodes. Every time it's like deep sleep to super upset. But yeah, our animal friends, what can you say, right? They're ding-dongs. Yeah, this was found at the Goodwill outlet, right? So it's like this paper mache garland thing, and it's cracking. It has little cracks in it, so I guess it's like paper mache. You know what I mean? This used to be really popular ornaments and stuff, but you see how they're painted really bright, little fruity tooties, and the leaves are almost like porcelain. They're not, but they're almost like enameled paper. You know what I mean? I forget what this stuff was. It's very sort of Mexican looking and very colorful, and it has these. I don't particularly like the tinsel stuff hanging off of it, but I like the fruity tooties a lot. And I couldn't put this away. I've got my Christmas tree here, and Robin, I put the birthday cake you made me in the frame across the way, so you'll see that in another shot. And Linda Ann, I think this is what you were talking about last night during the hook along when you said, "Is that where you were for the Halloween thing?" I think maybe you meant I went to the Halloween market. It was called the Witch's Ball at the Providence Flea Market site. Like a couple weeks before Halloween, and they had like all kinds of crafts and stuff. And one person was making these beautiful artsy dolls, and she's even like painted and speckled. And I mean, I think I bought 4 or 5 different little dolls from this stall, and I just love them. And the cat came from somewhere else. That came from the store in Mystic, Connecticut, the Red Salt Box. I was there not that long ago, and she's the one who wants the hook drugs if you're interested in making some for her. But I do love these like handmade little, and I couldn't get rid of that little thing, right? She's gonna stay with me until it's Halloween again, and then I'll redo the mantle. But thank you for noticing. All right, let's see. I have a bunch. Oh, Sharon says I have a bunch of unscoured Cotswold locks. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking about. I was thinking about the possibility of including the locks, which are the actual sheep curls, because a lot of people hook with those as well as roving. But the sheep's curls really are kinked up and curly, and they make a beautiful sheep, as you can imagine. And that's a great possibility. So I was thinking about that. But I think what I'll do, because I was live for over 4 hours last night and it was a smaller piece, I think this is going to be faster going because you can imagine how quickly I'm going to punch the lamb's body. And I'm going to punch it without the washers, which I never do, right? Because I'm always wanting to punch low and keep more detail. Someone's in the parking lot. I always have my eye, nosy neighbor. I always keep my loops low, but in this case, I'm going to keep them pretty wild and high, so it'll be a slightly different technique. And one of the other things about this design that I think is going to work well is you can see there's ba ba in reverse, and then black sheep, very subtle here. So I will be hooking letters, right, which I haven't done live yet. And I thought, well, that's very different too. We can do two techniques: the long punch needle, if you want to join in, and then the hooking the text. So those will be two things to kind of pull out of this design that I think would be great and adaptable to so many other projects that you're going to do, right? So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I think it was a scammer too yesterday. That was really, really weird. As soon as somebody logs on to a thread that's already been going on for 3 hours and says, is there an admin like online? It's like, why? What do you plan on saying, you know? But yeah, not so good. Not so good. And really distracting. And oh, can I have admin rights? You know, I'm a good admin. Not to be awful, but it's just unexpected. Unexpected behavior. All unexpected behavior throws me for a loop, particularly on the internet because we've had too much stuff, right? So yeah, huge thank you, Linda, to our admins. Two admins at once. Kirsten was one of them. I think Jay was the other. First, put her in a timeout just to think for a minute because it was too much, too fast with the crazy comments. And then Kirsten pulled the plug, and I think that was a good call. So maybe we should have like a safe word, like banana split or something, so that yeah. I know you're looking for a cue from me, and I try to be very nice, but I did snap a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. I think I was still very nice, all things considered. Sharon, I would have been dragged kicking and screaming to be in a. I would have to be right. I know because it's a tough call being an admin because you want to make the allowance and you want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt and think a lot of people are from different countries. With the name Samantha, that's not really an international name, but not being very specific and awful. But you do want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, you do know that all kinds of crazy stuff happen in these live stream situations and Zooms and things like that. So yeah, you want to thoughtfully give people the benefit of the doubt, and it was right at the edge, right from the start. Kara, good to see you. Judy, happy Beltane. Oh my gosh, where's my Beltane book? I have a whole book on traditions and recipes and costumes and dances. Oh, I've got to find that. I think that's 2 rooms over. April, he would be great. Hooked with curly locks, he would be great. And absolutely, you can do that with this. I'll probably put in the natural yarn, but you should hook them however you want. And we will look forward to that in less than a month doing that. Good morning, Lynn in Tucson. Great to see you. Wouldn't the kids be playing around the maypole? Make a fun rug. That sounds so you too, that kind of celebratory feel to a rug design. That would be a great design. That would be super, super fun. I would love to do a very stylized design of something like that. That would be really cheery. All those great British traditions, right? All those great sort of pagan type traditions are so beautiful in celebrating spring, right? Which is how I think we're all feeling right now. Country Gal Robin, hello. Oh, you're near Green Bay. Okay, great. Good. I just want to see what you're all chatting about. Sandra, happy Monday. Had so much fun playing trivia on Friday. Wasn't that fun? Did you get a bunch of the answers right? That was such a lot of fun. I have to remember to do trivia once a month because it really is fun for everybody, I think. Also a Yorkie mom, Rolo eats poop at times. They are just little ding-dongs, but they are the sweetest. They have the sweetest hearts for their families. They're ready to kill anybody else, but family, they are the sweetest, softest little things. Oh, welcome. Cass from our group is in Green Bay. Okay. Oh, that's a great connection. Good finding each other. Bonnie, it's beautiful here in Palm Coast. Oh, y'all come. Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me. That's, yeah. Oh, that sounds great, especially on a chilly day like the 1st of May. That was a rhyme, wasn't it? Didn't even realize that was coming out of my mouth. All right, let's get back to work. And I want to finish up this book. I did not have time between arriving home after 11 and this morning to work on new content. So I'm going to finish up our fairy tale book right now. And as I said before, for whatever reason, my favorite images are at the back of the book. It seemed like the maybe I don't know. I don't know how books are laid out, and I don't even think it's up to the author because I'm on my second book now, and I know with my first book I had no say over what went on what page. So I don't know who gets the prime real estate at the front of the book, but for some reason, some of these images at the back of the book are absolute killers and my absolute favorites. I'm looking at the book by Robin Rennie, the Fairy Tales book, and I want to conclude this conversation because this is for whatever reason with this specific book we keep opening up crossover conversations that I think are extremely helpful that cross over into composition, copyright, because we have something to compare all of these hooked rugs to, the original illustrations, many of which I have found. So this has been a real rabbit hole of a conversation looking at this book because, for example, this is what we've been doing, isn't it? This is the last image that we looked at last time we were together. This is an Anne Anderson, right? She was a Scottish illustrator, late 18th century. She died in they think 1930, but could likewise be 36 or 52. Remember the weird mystery around that. And this is Hooked by Pat Sahakian. And we were remarking on the differences in our last show between the hooked version, particularly with the witch and the skin tone of the witch and the idea of the witch and that whole conversation through time. This was where we left off. So I think we loved these images. And that brought us to, is this it? Oh, so the illustrator for the Hansel and Gretel is Anne Anderson, right? And I said, Anne Anderson is one of these fairly hard to research illustrators who deserves a lot more kudos than she has gotten historically. I think the problem of the name, first name Anne, last name Anderson, very hard to research with two names that are very, very common names, right? So a little bit hard to research, but many of her images are collected in books that accompany collections of fairy tales and children's stories and so a little bit of marketing and advertising type stuff. So this is, oh, I always screw this up. This is Rumpelstiltskin, right, with the spinning wheel. Is that right? This one for me is this is not a hooked rug, right? This is just another example of Anne Anderson at work. This would be another copyright-free illustration, right? Ready to go. Lots of beautiful detail here, right? Oh, this sort of princess-type character with this very desirable blonde hair, opening the door with all of these flagstones, leading us toward this crone witch-type character, right? Because we're seeing that Puritan-style hat, sort of witchy-looking. What this really reminds me of, in a huge way, is Maxfield Parrish. Which is interesting because, he does a lot with the checkerboard, right? And that really is his signature thing, like the character standing on a marble floor that's a black and white checkerboard. And he's painting mostly not mostly, but most famously in the 1920s. He had the most famous image, I think it was called Sunset, of the decade in the 1920s in terms of sales. So she could have, Anne Anderson could have passed away in 1930, 1936. That would still coincide. But the point I'm making is this certainly crosses over to Maxfield Parrish. We haven't done a design like him yet, but maybe we should. These are more Anne Anderson images. And I just want to show you that they're out there because if they really speak to you, you should go for it, right? Honey Beehive carries the fairy tale designs. Happy Monday, Ryan, that we see in this book. But everything that's not in this book is you would have to figure out a way to transpose it, right? And this is a beautiful Cinderella, right? So again, like the girl with the braid, she almost looks like, sorry about the word Indian, but Indian princess, right? Because that is a character type. I mean native or indigenous, but that is a type, right, from this time. In her rags, right, she's changed over. It's hit the clock struck 12 or whatever, and the pumpkin coach is gone, and off she runs, and there's the glass slipper behind her. Really beautiful. But this is also heading toward the fashion designers of the 1920s, 1930s, right? Irte. We've done a lot of this kind of conversation in the Design Light classes. This is, hang on, let me cite this. This is obviously a rug. Let me cite this one. Okay, we are transitioning. This easily looks like an Ann Anderson, but it's not. This is a Frank Cheney Pape, P-A-P-E, accent aigu on the E. And he is actually British, and his life was between 1878 and 1972. He passed away the year that I came into the world. So he has a very exotic name, but he is a British illustrator and illustrated books, Naughty Eric and Other Stories from Giant, Witch and Fairyland 1902. This is the kind of era. He lived in Sussex, that part of England. And he was well known in his lifetime, but he is one of these names, Pape, who we really don't hear about anymore. He set his career aside for some time because he served in the army during the Greco-Bulgarian. He was on the Greco-Bulgarian front during World War One. So a lot of people had their lives, obviously, and careers interrupted during this time. This group of people that we're talking about, because their lives overlap the First World War, and in some cases also the Second. So he's got an interesting biography, and in part that's recorded in this book, as are all like small versions of the biography. Now, this piece is hooked by Pam Finnegan. This is a truly just exquisite piece in terms of movement, right? You see, there are two characters involved here. There is a ghostly character that is carrying the character that appears to be swooning. And the name of the piece is Whirlwind, the Whistler Carries Away Golden Tress, Tress. Again, the original illustration is by Frank Pape, and this piece is 20 by 30, and it's number 3 to number 9 cut. So some of the cuts in this piece are very wide. You can see she's got a very ethnic costume on, doesn't she? And her hat is falling off of her. It's a beautiful time of the day. We've got a sky that is filled with periwinkle, lilac, and yellows, right? Lots of great contrasting color. She's got beautiful sort of yellowy, gingery hair, golden hair, I guess. And I just love this silhouette, this ghostly silhouette of Whirlwind the Whistler. So I'm not sure. Let me see if it says what story this is from. The decision to replicate the illustration as closely as possible presented the greatest challenge for Pam. When adapting an illustration for a rug, determining which motifs will work in the wool, it's an important consideration, and adapting the number of flowers on the dress was a difficult decision. But it's essential to allow the picture to make the transition from book to illustration to hooked rug. Book illustration. Dyeing the colors for this rug took much time and deliberation as well. I bet there's a lot of color changes in here. It's very swirly. It's very pretty. I love how in his legs, you see those mossy green colors that are also part of the tree right behind him, almost like he's really translucent. I mean, I guess he is. I guess that's the branches of the tree we're seeing behind his calves and ankle, right? Really interesting. This is tough. This is tough because you can imagine a subject like this has potential to look scary. And it doesn't. I mean, it looks beautiful. Just the shape of his body holding hers, carrying her. I don't know if this is, I don't know this story. It could be that he's abducting her for all I know. But it looks really beautiful if he is. So, I'm half joking about that. I just love the outline of his underarm, of his shoulder, of his hair, of his silhouette. I love the use of the very simple black outline around like her face and her arms, right? It's not overdue for me. There's not an overdue of shadow. It has a very graphic look of the early 20th century. And even though I don't know this illustration, it looks to me like something you'd find in a book. If I squint, it could be a color plate. I love the clouds and everything too. It's just a beautiful piece. It's a really, really beautiful piece. what a great moment. What a lot of fun this project must have been for people to be like searching through um, old books and fairy tales and going to libraries, right, and antique bookstores and trying to find plates that were different and exciting and lent themselves, if not well, at least possibly to rug making, right? Because some of them are just, it's just too much, right? And others really work. This is the cover image. So obviously this is one that really works. This is hooked by Melissa Petticini. And this is from the Frog Prince. You see that the character is looking at the frog who's on the bottom left with his big eyeballs, looking at her too. The illustration is by Mabel Lucy Atwell, and that's two T's in Atwell. The picture that we're looking at, the rug itself, is 48 by 58, number 3, 2 number 6 cut wool on linen. And it says, when compared to the mouse's tail, and I'll show you the mouse's tail because that's not one that I've put in here. We looked at it in a past coffee time. You can see how Atwell's style progressed and improved in a short time. Okay, so you know what? Okay, no, you know what? I've seen this one. I get this. We've seen this image because my friend Donna Swanson, and her shop is Whispering Hill in Woodstock, Connecticut, did this one, right? I don't have it in the slideshow, but we've looked at it in a past coffee time, probably when I went to visit Donna. But, right, this is also a design by Mabel Atwell. So, and I love this image. I really love this image. That one is called The Mouse's Tail, illustration by Mabel Lucy Atwell, 22 by 30, number 4 cut wool on linen, hooked by Donna Swanson. I really love that image. And I've been very lucky to see this one in person several times because she hooked it over COVID and it's hanging up in the shop. So the comment for the Frog Prince is that, obviously not the hooker because it's two different people hooking, but that the illustrator, Mabel Atwell, her style progressed in a short time. The wools for the princess's skin and dress, the path, the water were custom dyed in Colorama by Vivly Powers. The rest of the rug was hooked with odds and ends. Let me come back to you here. Was hooked with odds and ends from Melissa's stash. I can't stand using people's last name. It feels so overly formal. To achieve the effect, group ordering from Honey Beehive this May. Oh, everybody in your group, Cats Gallery, is ordering from Honey Beehive this May. Well, that's exciting. I'm jealous, but that's exciting because she does have beautiful stuff, and these are amazing images. To achieve the effect of the path leading into the distance and the castle being far away, she used directional hooking and curves in the forest. Okay, I see. Interesting. Okay, so that's just the author's notes. I will say I don't necessarily agree about the author's style changing between these two pictures. They're completely different compositions. I see a lot in common with these two compositions in terms of before and after. Both compositions, in my mind, revolve around the same circle, right? This circle here, the open space, right? That is the space between the characters, and this open circle here, which has the frog on it, right? Also important. It's basically the same composition. It's a half circle with a lot of trees coming up, right? So to me, it's pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same composition. And then using the device of angling off a little bit on the corner here and a little bit on the corner here where she changes color for the bee. So I don't know. I mean, dissecting composition is subjective for sure, but I see basically the same composition happening with different characters in it, more like a blueprint. This is just a great design. It was a good choice, I think, for hooking. And it has that moonlight feel to it, which really is so difficult to achieve. You've really got to be a pretty decent colorist to be able, it's not just about choosing darker colors, right? It's about, you need the darker colors in place, but you also need to have a kind of a glow happening because you need the main parts of the story to stand out. So it's just a beautiful piece. It's a beautiful piece. It deserves to be on the cover. It's very, very different. Really well done. I'm going to keep moving. Speaking of different, this illustrator is very different. This is a German illustrator, F.H. Ernst Schneidler. So his life was between 1882 and 1956. This is a very different kind of an illustration, like woodcut, right? It looks like a woodcut. So it also looks a little bit like a Mexican mola. So just very, very different. This is called Fairy Tale Cottage, and this is hooked by Karen Healy, Healy. This piece is 24 by 41 and a half, 8 cut wool on linen. Really, it's like hats off. This one is really different. What a great choice as well to choose an illustration that is done with like a block print rather than as an etching, right? Because you've got much broader lines. You've got a little bit more of a challenge because you know you're going to be the odd man out if you choose this. And she still chose this and did remarkably well with it. So this is a cool illustrator as well who studied architecture. Was it like a bit of a jack of all trades? Um, he was a great designer. He was a great teacher. Didn't have the sort of epic career of some of the illustrators that we're talking about. Yet the cottage is fantastic. It's unexpected. It's all unexpected. It really draws your eye in. There are a lot of like labyrinth shapes happening and a lot of color changes. And I like how a lot of the outlining, which you would expect to find in black because of the style of printing, is in dark green and other colors. I think that's really, really clever. Karen did a hell of a nice job with this one. Sorry. Healy, okay, so I'm not sure if it's EY or Y because it's spelled in two different ways. But let's say Karen wanted to retain the wood look of this illustration and felt the best way to do so was to give it a coloring book feel. Super smart, super smart. She used bright colors but retained the nighttime look. Her biggest challenge was the busyness of the pattern. She chose the cottage as a focal point using turquoise next to orange to draw in the viewer's eye. And that's really smart because the orange is a great polar opposite to that turquoise blue. On the roof of the cottage, a honeycomb wool overdyed in ochre. So we're looking at the roof, it's still very patterned, provides a resting place between the tangle of the foreground and the brightness of the cottage and moonlit sky. The simple orange border accents the rug and brings out the cottage. A folksy crocheted border of bulky weight yarn adds to the, so we're not seeing that in the photograph, but that would be super, super, super cool. Because if you think about it, look at the sky, that almost looks like the center of a granny square, doesn't it? Kind of the echo from the center out. Really different. Really different. Speaking of different, this is a Jane McGowan piece. This is hooked by Jane McGowan. This is the pomegranate, the apple tree, and the bramble. Right, so this is another really interesting choice. This is what I mean at the end of the book for me, like the interest ratchets up because we're seeing some lesser known illustrators. This is Edward Julius Detmold, another British illustrator, 1883 to 1957. Really, really different, right? Because we are at this point used to seeing images that revolve around storytelling. This looks like it might be like toile wallpaper, right? Or a mural. Like the subject of this, I'm going to read the title again, is The Pomegranate, the Apple Tree, and the Bramble. And this is hooked by Jane McGowan Flynn. This is 25 by 36, number 3 cut wool on rug yarn. I think that probably means on rug warp. Really, really, really different. I love different. I love different. And this is going to be a horrible pun, but this is not the low-hanging fruit, is it? This is difficult in every way. It's also a bit mysterious. It really draws your eye in. It has a sort of a festive look. Like I could see this being part of a wallpaper in an old inn where you would go and have Thanksgiving, something like that. But it also has a little bit of a sinister look, right? Because that tree formation looks dead and it's wrapping around in a sinister, twisty way that looks like it might get you, right? And it's an interesting piece. It's an interesting illustration to choose. This would be one that 99.99% of people flip past. Well, not Jane, right? This is really, really different. I love the swirls, right? The arabesque feel of the composition, balanced out with these big, heavy, ornament-like, big, fat fruits, right? And we're looking at the pomegranates on the insides, the seeds too, and of course pomegranates represent fertility. And we're seeing all of that swirling and all of that roundness really moderated by the horizontal yellow in the sky. Like the sky is really keeping all of this arabesque in place. And it's so unusual. This rug uses a different color palette than the original illustration. Jane chose to hook the pomegranates in a deep, rich red purple. The apples are the same dyes with more yellow red added to the formula. The briars are even yellow or red. The background must serve as a foil for the rest of this piece. It does so very effectively, dyed in close valuation. So some of these descriptions are a little bit, because these are Pearl McGowan certified teachers who are participating in the making of these rugs and the collecting of this exhibit, right, that has been traveling. And so some of the descriptions are very technical. And for someone who's a beginner or approaching for the first time and maybe doesn't dye or is not interested in the technical aspect of it, it sounds overwhelming. But at the end of the day, right, everything is practice, everything is learning. If this is your ideal, then you work until on all the different aspects of the craft until you get here. But yeah, technically this is astonishing. And at the same time, creatively, it's also astonishing. Sometimes that doesn't happen for me, you know. But with that piece, that's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy good. Um, oh man. You know what? I have to show you. I shouldn't spend any extra time because we're always short on time. I don't think I photographed this one. I want to show it to you though. This is so different. John Bauer, Swedish artist, late 19th century, died in 1918. This piece is called Flora, and it's hooked by Sandy Ferguson. I don't know why I didn't take a picture of this. Probably because it's so small. Wait till you see this. 24 by 38, number 3 cut wool, yarn, and specialty fabrics on linen. Let me show you it and then I'll read what it says. I wish that this was much bigger in this book. Let me see how close I can bring this to you. It looks a little bit dark. I wish I could see this one really blown up. You see how much detail is in that? Look at that silhouette. It almost reminds me a little bit of, like, remember Wedgwood? Who's the other company that did that very flat finish ceramic, not ceramic, was it pottery? What the heck was it? You know, like what the Wedgwood plaques that they used to make for the walls, and the character that was usually a female would be in silhouette, very willowy, like this illustration, that kind of a shape. There was another, it wasn't Fenton, was it? Anyway, it reminds me of that kind of willowy character on one of those wall plaques, right? Sort of same period of time, right? Those were popular in like the 1910s, 1920s. Beautiful John Bauer design, again, hooked by Sandy Ferguson, and it says, this painting is believed to be, so this is a rug, but the painting is believed to be a stylized portrait of John Bauer's wife. Oh, how beautiful. The two different shades of the shiny fabric are used in this dress, It really is super shiny. That's why I wish I could see it larger, because it has a crazy kind of holographic feel to the dress, right? Very ghostly feel to it. Flora's braids are done with wool yarn. The flowers were given a three-dimensional look by drawing loops up higher and knotting them. The background combines two colors. Whew, that is absolutely beautiful. She has a very gauzy, yeah, she does. I want to bring it in as much as I can. It's really hard to get this one in focus. Can you see that her dress is a little bit shiny? It's like the unicorn tapestry behind her, right? And there's a bird right above her. Look at the way that the sort of scarf is forking out, creating a shape around her. Isn't that really, really beautiful? Such a beautiful composition. All right, let's come back to the slideshow before we go really far down a rabbit hole. This is another beauty. I just flipped by that and I thought, no, I can't flip by that. Can't do it. Can't do it. So let me find this one. Hang on. I thought, yep. So this is a Margaret Ely Webb design. This is an American illustrator, 1877 to 1950. Very little known about her. She did a lot of, and as you can imagine with this piece, it looks like a book plate, right? So a lot of book plates you see when you open an old book are Margaret Webb designs. She was primarily known for woodblock printing. And this is a great example of that. This is obviously Little Red Riding Hood, and it is hooked by Jane with a Y Nevins. This piece is 18 by 24, number 3 and number 4 cut wool on rug warp. The rug is very faithful to the reproduction of the original design, and Nevins did an excellent job matching the wools and the colors, etc., etc. Let's talk about it our way. This is just, I think, an extraordinary piece. If you notice, what looks like the white is not white. I don't even think it's gray. I think it's like the lightest value of an ice blue. Because if you look at the bottom where it says he was certainly a very superior wolf, that is gray. That's like a dove gray at the bottom. So I think we're looking at a blue, and it's almost like moonlight hitting, right? That blue moonlight hitting stones in the forest. And him coming out the way that he is, kind of like a gargoyle, is really very evocative. And she's kind of matter of fact turn, like, who's that? You know, and it's like, it's me. I'm going to kill you and your grandmother. And it's just very casual and very candid a pose. It's also really lovely, and design-wise, it kills. It kills. There's this diagonal path coming with her standing in it, right? He's jutting into that alleyway, right? That is not, the rocks and the trees are creating the border here. And there's this open alleyway in between, and he's jutting into it. He's intruding into her space, right? It almost looks like his mouth is on the basket. I think maybe he has the basket in his mouth, or it's over her arm, but it certainly looks like an optical illusion if that's the case. We get these Art Nouveau kind of entwining vines, branches, flowers, and very, very Mucha, very Art Nouveau. These flowers standing very strong, very straight up, right? And almost as rigid and as tall as she's standing, because she's, for a child, her posture is tremendous, isn't it? Right? They're usually like all shrimped over, all curled up. Kids, you know, but this little girl is standing really high up, and there's a flower right in front of her standing very, very strong and tall too. Karen says, I think I saw one or two at Sauter last year, but I think all of these fairy tale works should be at Sauter this year. Do you think so? Do you mean that you think so in your opinion, or you've heard that they are? Because I will love seeing all of them. I would love seeing all of them. Because I feel like some that got not that much attention in the book are ones that are really worthy of way, way more looking and talking. Oh, I don't know why I thought they were there last year. Oh, Linda Ann, we're definitely going. We're going together, and it's going to be great if the rugs are there. I will flip my flipper. Um, okay, let's go to this one. I'm skipping a lot. If you're in the book with me, I'm skipping a lot because I want it to be fun for you when you buy this book. So Edmund Duloc is a very, very famous illustrator. Really gorgeous. He's French, but he lived most of his life in the UK. Really gorgeous, very jewel-like colors, very lush, very regal looking illustration. It's like he almost looks like an Arthur Rackham, but filled with jewel colors and bright, bright, bright colors, not pastels, right? Not pastels at all. So, and he's 1883 to 1953. So his work changed a lot over his lifetime. Really interesting person, really stellar illustrator. The Princess and the Pea. This is hooked by Sue Minorini. And this piece is 24 by 39, number 3 to number 6 cut, wool on rug warp. And it says most of the rug used in was from Sue's stash, most of the wools. A dip dye was used for the inside of the canopy. You can see how the canopy, maybe, can you see how it goes from that, where it's ruched in the center, where it's gathered in the center? It goes out with both indigo colors and red grape colors, right? So like blue violet, red grape, a little bit of indigo. You can see how that's coming out from the center. Probably the dip dye meant that at the very end of the piece of wool was that dark, dark, dark material that forms the ruching that looks almost like a spider's web in the center, right? So that's interesting to know that most of it is from her stash, but that piece needed to be dyed because that is an important piece, isn't it? The purple canopy is balanced by the purple in the bedpost. That's a good point. The bedpost is purple, right? We expect it to be brown, but you look again, it's outlined in black, but it is purple, and it does have the red violets in it too. So that is a great sort of mimic of the underside of the canopy. The princess's face is so tiny that Sue elected not to give it features. I think that's a very good call. There's nothing worse than fobbing up, I was careful when I said that, a face, right? Because it's just too tiny. We fully understand, and not only do we understand the pose, it's elegant, it's anonymous, it's relatable, but you get a feel for her body language too. Like she's kind of like half stretching and leaning over her shoulder, that morning, a bit of a cat stretch, you know. Really beautiful piece. And now we're into Kay Nielsen, who we talk about a lot on Coffee Time because he's one of my favorite artists. He's Danish. His life is between 1886 and 1957. I'm not going to go a lot into him, but we've looked at in the first design, like the fairy tale storybook. And by the way, the second one is out, so make sure you're signed up for that. And the first one we looked at is Hansel and Gretel, which was absolutely stellar. But we talk about him a lot. We talked about him on a bingo night. He is in that early 20th century fashion arena, right? He's very into fashion illustration, couture, that whole jet set life, that group of designers. I think they were called, they had a funny name. It was something like the Knights of the Golden Bracelet, something like that, wasn't it? Do you remember from that episode? Something like that. But anyway, very, very, very chic. This is Princess Minette rides out to find Prince Souci. And again, illustration by Kay Nielsen, but this is Hooked by Karen Cormier. This is 30 by 35, number 3 and number 4 cut wool with silk embellishments on rug warp. In the book, this is teeny tiny. Again, it's another one that I wish was a full size. I know not everybody's can be a full page. This is just so, this is so extraordinary for me. And let's talk about it in a minute. Let's see what was written. I'm going to see if there's anything written that. Okay, yeah, I think we can skip that. Let's just freestyle it. The things that I think are working for this piece are the sunset sky, right? The sunset sky. Either it's early in the morning or it's late at night, but those clouds, and that will be the work of Kay Nielsen, right? That's part of the illustration, those big fat clouds. The way that they're rising up like smoke from a chimney rather than like cumulus clouds, very interesting, and it draws us up diagonally. You see from the bottom right to the top left, we have a really strong diagonal pull right up through the composition. I love the sky. I love the slope of the green behind. I love the way some of this is outlined. Like you get that really regal curl in the tail, all of the embellishments of the flowers, roses on this special horse, really well decorated. The strength, the muscles are really popped with this great outlining. Her dress, all the fine lines of this fashion piece, which would have been important to Kay Nielsen, very, very fine, really popping because they are outlined finely and beautifully. And you have that in contrast to this sky that magically moves without outlining from one pastel color to the next. If there is a definition of fairy tale illustration, for me it's this image. Because it's the character with the horse, it's the two big tropes, right? Like a princess on a horse. And then in the background, this impossible fairy tale color, right? Color plan. I mean, this is amazing. I know that I couldn't do this. One of the things I think that's two things about the sky that are really helping this piece, like for future reference, that light yellow at the bottom, and it's hitting the undersides of the clouds at the top. Right, so it's bringing our eye right up. It's very warm. It's very comfortable. That's exciting. The other thing in the sky that's very exciting for me is that the clouds themselves are this kind of sea foamy, almost Tiffany blue, but the sky itself is more of a traditional sky blue, like a light cobalt, right? Very, very, very different colors. Very different colors, because the one that's the Tiffany blue has a lot of yellow in that color. The other one is just a straight up base primary blue. Very, very different. And they are not fighting each other, but they're not buddies either. Those clouds really stand out against that sky. But in some places where that Tiffany blue is hitting the middle ground with the purples and the medium mauves, it is disappearing more because it's the same tone as those. It's magical. It's just magical. I don't know if you come up with something like this because you're Karen and you're amazingly great, or if any of it is chance and luck. Because for me, it would be, if I did something this good, it would be chance and luck that all of these things happened to happen like the perfect storm, but good, right? Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Let's see, let's keep going because we're right at the end. This is the Hansel and Gretel I was talking about by Kay Nielsen. It is in this book, Hooked by Kyoko Nakamura. Very, very small. So make sure that you buy this book because you're going to want to see that image closer up. This is another one by Kay Nielsen, so that is in the same chapter. I'm going to speed at this point. No disrespect for the people whose work this is, and I hope that it will be at Sauter Village. Little Brother, Little Sister, again, Kay Nielsen illustration, but hooked by Margaret Bedle, Bedle. 21 by 60, number 3 and number 4 cut wool on linen. Again, very tapestry feel, very unicorn tapestry feel, right? Very loving pose between the animal and the princess character. Full of flora, full of interest, great grounding of the character, great lights against darks, right? Lots of silhouette stuff happening there. Sorry, didn't mean to pop up quite that fast. And let's see, we're gonna, oops, come on. John Austen, British designer, 1886 to 1948. This is a great, I love the shape of this piece as well. Hooked by Ingrid Hieronymus. I always struggle with that last name, and she is a legend. Cinderella Runs from the Ball by John Austen. Number 3 and number 4 cut wools and dark spot dyes on monk's cloth. This is just so over the top. I mean, isn't this, oh God, and there are actually, let me see if I can, I'll show you in the book. There are pearls in her hair, but this has a woodcut feeling too. I love the directional hooking. Look down at the trees, right? This also has kind of an Alphonse Mucha, it's the right period, feel with those clusters of flowers on these mature trees, right? You get flowering trees, but not with trunks like this, right? These are real, this is magic, right? This is a magic land. All of these horizontal steps, right? Amazing. And then this vertical thrust of the trees into the building. And then there is the prince in the distance throwing his arms up, super frustrated. It's really interesting illustration, and it's beautifully done. Can you see how in Ingrid's piece there are pearls in her headdress? It's one of these Restoration era headdresses, right, that would have like a cage underneath it to support all of that crazy height. Absolutely beautiful piece. Let's fly through and look at the other ones. I hate to fly, you know, but... Oh, I know this artist. This is a Dutch artist, Ree Kramer. Okay, I didn't even realize that when I saw it. Ree Kramer, this is The Little Mermaid. She is one of the most famous Dutch illustrators. She did tons, and she had a long life, 1887 to 1977. In the Netherlands, she really is like one of the most famous artists to this day. She did lots of books of seasons, year cycles, months, things like that, and they have been available forever in the Netherlands as so beautiful. As you know, cross stitch and different. I have some of hers at home actually. I think they're either cross stitch or needlepoint. But whenever in the Netherlands they have kind of a Facebook marketplace, and it's called Marktplaats. And when you go on there and you search for Ree Kramer, occasionally when I lived there for all those years, needlepoint and textiles would pop up, and I always bought them because I just thought her work was just amazing. So this is The Little Mermaid. This is hooked by Gina Peschal. And again, R-I-E Kramer, C-R-A-M-E-R. Lots of embellishments. This is on linen, 32 by 24, number 3 to number 6 cut wool on linen. And you see all the bling on it, pins pinned on. She did a cover for Hansel and Gretel also, Ree Kramer, that was like a wreath. Oh, Heidi, good to see you. Heidi, do you know Ree Kramer too in Belgium? Is she a famous illustrator there as well? Because I know I have The Little Mermaid, and I also have Hansel and Gretel, and it has the same wreath. It must have been a wreath, but with Hansel and Gretel inside of it. It was like they used these designs for covers of books. They were super, super, super cool. I just wanted to show you this, and then I'll probably stop. This was interesting to me because do you remember Herbert Cole? We looked at him the last episode or the one before with the 3 bears. And remember the woman who hooked it made sort of likened the 3 bears to 3 grandchildren. Yes, Heidi, right? She's so famous and her work is so fun. Heidi, do you have Marktplaats in Belgium too? The website for, because that's where I found all my Ree Kramer stuff, but more when I was young. Yeah, maybe she's fading out of popularity, but she's like iconic illustrator. This reminds me of the Herbert Cole we saw in a past episode. Just the feel of the 3 bears, because they really are not, I always struggle with this word, anthropomorphic. Am I close? I'm not even going to try. They're not meant to look like humans dressed as bears or something, right? They really look like clunky, dangerous bears. But it reminds me of that one, but this is different. This one's by Margaret Evans Price, and this is Hooked by Anita Bahls, Bahls. Beautiful, beautiful piece, Goldilocks Sleeping, 22 by 24. If this, as a child, doesn't disturb your sleep for eternity, I don't know what would. Just the idea of being asleep while three full-size bears are just watching you, you know. Super creepy. I really love this piece. I love the way that the wallpaper is handled, right? With those little flecks of color. Isn't that astonishingly great? The directional hooking on the ground. I mean, it's just crazy. This is one of those pieces in the book that I just went, whoa. Land of Nod. This is another one that's by Margaret Evans Price. This is hooked by Catherine Vance. 14 by 25 on linen. Another beautiful piece. And again, another illustrator that if you've heard of her, it's hardly ever, or maybe it was a long time ago. Some of these illustrators and all of these hookers are astonishing, right? I just want to get through the book so we can move on to the Celtic book on Wednesday. This is the one I used for the thumbnail today. This is one of my two favorites in the book. This is hooked by Holly Garman. The Prince Kisses Beauty's Hand, and the illustration again is by Margaret Evans Price. This is 22 by 30, number 3 and number 4 cut wool with number 2 cut for the faces. And you can see there's a lot of proddy on this piece. So I just have to say, as luck has it, my favorite two pieces in the book happen to be right next to each other and the same artist, right? So that can't be a coincidence. So I want to talk for a full hour on this piece, but obviously I'm not going to do that. I just love the use of proddy in here. It is super magical. The sort of fireworks in the sky. This piece makes me crazy. I am so in love with this piece. It is an over the topper, absolutely over the topper. And I'm going to show one more, and then we're going to call it a day, because I do have more in the slideshow. And yeah. It's just so dense, this book. I'm going to conclude in a second, but this is called The Queen Wishes for a Baby. And again, Margaret Evans Price. This is hooked by Victoria Rudolph, 33 by 43, number 5 to 8 cut wool on linen. And I love this. I use this for a past thumbnail. I love that she's doing like a needlecraft in the book. I love the snowy outdoors. I love the silhouette. I love that she's wearing her crown while she's doing needlepoint. I love the grandness of her soror. I love this piece. I honestly, oh God, I love this piece. Victoria Rudolph. The rug demonstrates how a range of cuts can be useful in creating effects in a rug. The wider cuts were used for the snow and the window. Just paraphrasing. The narrower cuts create detail in the curtain, crown, dress, cuff, etc., etc. The dress contains antique paisley. Oh, it sure does. It sure does. So that dress is, or at least contains it. The reddish madder color, right, is the paisley. Absolutely beautiful. I'm just so, these two pieces for me are like, whoa, right? I mean, the whole book is whoa. So I had more to do, but I mean, we need to move on, and maybe we'll return to it someday. If you don't have this book, you must have this book, because it's a great index, biographical index of so many different illustrators. From the golden age of illustration, right? Basically 1880s to 1930 at the far end, who are not completely known anymore, but are absolutely stellar. And you want to know their work if you're interested in this subject. And these rugs are all hooked by the best people, right? Because these are all the Promogown certified teachers. But it's just endless. It's absolutely endless. This book is fantastic. So this is a 2023 publication from Rug Hooking Magazine's Emery Press, and really my favorite book so far that we've looked at. Honestly, it's just crazy. So be looking out for that. And again, this is by Robin Rennie. I'm sorry, Rennie. Yeah, it's astonishing. It's a fantastic collection. You must have. So I will see you on Wednesday. I'm going to put up the other hook, and I'm going to put up Baba Black Sheep. I will see you on Wednesday, and we'll start looking at the Celtic book, and that will be a giveaway. We'll give away 2 copies of that. Gosh, I have to check in and make sure that they're sending out the copies to the previous winners. I'll do that right now. It's been crazy, but I don't think the craziness is ever going to end. So I will see you on Wednesday for coffee time at noon Eastern Standard Time, and we will start looking at the Celtic book, and we will get going with the details of that giveaway. 2 copies of that book will be given away. Linda Ann says, Deanna, what time is the Design Light class on Wednesday? Good question. Let me see if it's in my calendar. I think it's at an odd time for sure. 1 to 3. So 1 to 3 is the Design Like Paul Klee. So yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing artist. So make sure that you're signed up for that. Really, it's going to be a phenomenal class full of great exercises to get you going with your own designing. Is a great person to lean into because he did so much graphic stuff and it's so extraordinary. If you think you don't know the name, Google him because you do know his work for sure. He really pioneer in lots of ways. We'll talk about all of that. Lots to ponder. That's true. You have that book, Cat's Gallery. It is fantastic. So make sure you're signed up for the stuff that's coming up. But in the meantime, the first thing that will happen is I will see you Wednesday for coffee time.